Hi, this is Charles Kelly. Welcome to Money Tips. Great to see you all. Thanks for everyone. I'm on Facebook Live. Thanks for everyone who tunes in there and also gives me the odd comment and a thumbs up. Great to see you all. And thanks for everyone who tunes into my podcast, which is on iTunes and Stitcher and available at my website, moneytipsdaily.com. Today I want to ask you, do you think we are richer or poorer than in the past? Because what I hear a lot of people talking about is, I hear words like austerity and things are not the same as the past. And in the past, we had this, we had that, we were better off. There were more jobs, there were more opportunities. I often hear this, and particularly for people, middle-aged people who sort of hark back to a time when things were better. I mean, obviously, if you're 18, you wouldn't really know the difference between now and 20 years ago. But, for people in their, 30s, 40s, 50s, they kind of think that in the past things were better and we had it easier, and your generation had it easier in the past. You could easily buy houses. So what would you think? Hi to everyone coming in. Hi there to Austin. Hi, great to see you. And well, in some ways, yeah, that things might have seemed better in the past. But I'm just looking here at a global wealth report from Credit Suisse, which it looks at the global wealth of household wealth of 5 billion people across the globe. And what they found is that in the past year, the global wealth grew by 2.6% to 360 trillion. And that on average, household wealth is growing. And there's a few other figures here. There are 47 million millionaires in the world now. Now, million is obviously not what it used to be, but there are 47 million millionaires in the world. Average wealth in the US now, $70,000, and 459 million in trillion in wealth all over the world. Now, people might say, yeah, that's all right. That's all for the billionaires are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. The billionaires are getting richer, but let's look at it. Forget about these reports. Now, let's look at it down to just basic everyday things. And, when I was growing up, people might have been lucky to have a holiday once a year. And if they didn't really go abroad, if you could afford to go abroad, you went to Spain on a package holiday. But a lot of people would just have a holiday in the UK down at Butlin's holiday camp. Or if you couldn't afford that, Pontin's holiday camp. If you couldn't afford that, you went to a B&B, a bed and breakfast in Margate, where 10 people shared one bathroom and you might need a shilling for the meter. So things weren't as great as people make out. Very few people had cars. It was a big thing to have a car. Phones, not everyone had a phone. We grew up where we didn't have a phone, and then we got a phone. It was a big deal. And incidentally, phone bills under a nationalised company, a nationalised telephone company, were much higher. Phone bills were higher. It would cost more to phone somebody. It costs a fortune to call people abroad. You might phone somewhere in Asia for 10 minutes and it would cost you £25, which was a lot then. There was no competition. You had to use one phone provider. It took 2 or 3 months to get a phone installed. You could have one phone per household. If you wanted another one, you had to pay extra. Most people knew a British telecom or post office guy that could do it for you and fix up another phone line in your bedroom and do it and give him £10 or something. But otherwise you had to pay extra for another phone line, another phone in your house. And so it wasn't as great as it seems. When it was sold off and competition came in, things got better. Calls prices came down. There's more choice now than there was. But if my mum had a phone bill of more than about £20 in a quarter, 3 month period, she would go crazy. So who's using the phone in the house? So now people are spending more than that every month on their mobile phone bill. Some people, you see people with all the latest phones queuing up in Regent Street for the latest Apple phones. Some of these are buying phones for between £1,000 and £2,000. Some people are renting the phones for the mobile phone companies, £70, £80 a month. If I want to upgrade my phone now, it's £80 a month. Now that's more per month than my parents were paying excuse me, on their phone bill for a quarter. So more money seems to be in the economy. And holidays, now people are taking holidays every half term. In schools, kids are going off on half term holidays to wherever, And flight prices are going up every half term. Flight prices are going up obviously at Easter time, because so many people are going away on holidays all the time. 3-4 holidays a year is not unusual. If they're not going on holidays abroad, they might be going to a cottage somewhere. So to me, there is more wealth now than there was when I was growing up. Definitely. People are buying more consumer goods. People have more clothes. The shops are booming. Excuse me a second. Sorry about that. The shops are booming. Last week was Black Friday, right? Billions were spent on Black Friday in the UK alone. Billions. The previous year was an 8 billion boost to the economy. But I'll give you one anecdote. In Oxford Street, there's a shop called Topshop. My daughter was in there the other day, and they had a massive Black Friday discount day on Friday, where people came into the stores and everything was reduced. On that day, you know how much they took on one floor of this shop? Not the whole of Topshop, one floor, the ladies' sort of fashion floor in the basement, so not even the prime position. Do you know how much they took on one floor? £1 million in one day. One day, one floor of one shop. They took £1 million. God knows how much the other shops took there. I was there yesterday in Oxford Street, packed full of tourists, packed full of shoppers, people spending money, not just in the shops, but I went to quite an expensive restaurant at the Berners Tavern, which is part of the Edition Hotel. I think it used to be called the Berners Hotel, Berners Street, just off Oxford Street. Quite pricey place. You wouldn't get away with £50-60 a head there. They had wines on the menu for £32,000. £32,000 wines. They had lots of wines on the menu for £200-300. I had a glass of house white, £10. So they had wines there for hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds, but £32,000 on a wine list menu. My God, and that place was packed. We couldn't even get a proper table. We had to have one of these bar tables, sitting around a little round table next to the bar because it was so busy, it was so packed. And that's at a time when people say there's no money about, but there is money about. You can see it. There's people, I look around at ordinary streets where people are driving £40,000 and £50,000 cars, sometimes more. They're getting new cars every couple of years. Now, yeah, you may say that they're doing this on credit, and the amount of credit per household has increased. Yes, that is true. But that helps wealth increase because it helps spending, it helps manufacturing, it helps to boost the economy, if you like. So I would say that there is more wealth around nowadays. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people who are not wealthy and a lot of people are suffering. But generally, the world is better now than I think it's been in the past. And if you look at China, for instance, 1 billion people have been taken out of poverty there in a generation. If you look around Asian countries which were poor in 30, 40 years ago, they're now giving the West a good run for their money. Think of Korea, how bad things were in Korea. Even Japan, was bad after the war. And now you look at countries that have come up in the world that were previously just starving. Even things are booming in Africa, where sales of mobile phones are booming. Parts of Africa are obviously war-torn and very poor, and we see it on TV. But lots of Africa is doing well, and certainly they're doing a lot better than they were 30, 40 years ago, when a lot of people were in desperate poverty. Now, you can argue with me one way or the other, but I think that the world is more wealthy now than it has been in the past. Yes, the rich have got a lot richer, of course, but there's a lot of things that didn't exist in the past. Think about the internet, for instance, that we're all paying internet charges and for broadband, which we didn't have in the past. We didn't have mobile phones not that long ago, and yet we've somehow managed to have these things. They're considered to be essentials now. People can't go around without their phone. They've got their phone glued to their ear all the time. They're talking all the time on the phone, and they want the best phones. They want to be able to download data on their phones. So this didn't exist in the past, but suddenly it's there, and we've absorbed this into our daily expenditure, and it's become an essential when in the past it didn't exist. So that money had to have come from somewhere. So it's the general increase in wealth that has enabled us to buy these things and have these things which we may have considered to be luxuries in the past to now be considered to be essentials now. So I wouldn't get caught up in the negativity of things, and look to say that if you've got a product, if you've got a business, then, and if you do it rightly, there is a market for it. There's, it's easier to launch a business now than it's ever been, because you've got the internet, because you've got Facebook, because you can launch a business on Facebook today without even having a website. You can launch an Amazon business today without having a website. You can go onto Amazon, and if you don't know how, take a course on Amazon trading, take a course on Amazon business and how to launch an Amazon business today. If you don't know how to do that, email me and I'll put you onto a course, charles@charleskelly.net, or on Facebook Messenger. So more and more people are becoming millionaires. That's why I said now there are 47 million millionaires. I read a thing that there's millions of millionaires in India, which, a few years ago was people were starving there, and that Britain was giving aid to countries like China and India, which now has huge economies. Yes, they've still got huge social problems, but I read there was over 1 million millionaires in India, and if you look at India now and the way it's booming and the way wealth is being created, and it's just incredible compared to when I was growing up. Things were desperate there. Things were desperate in India and in China. Now, capitalism may not be perfect, but as Winston Churchill said, in 7,000 years of recorded history, it's the best system that they've had in all that time. There hasn't been any other system. If you go back 100 years or so in the UK, most people were living off the land. The land was owned by feudal lords, who some of them still own the land, but most people were serfs. They were peasants living on this land and working for lords and ladies and the landed gentry until the Industrial Revolution came along. But things were not that great for those people. They could never build any wealth. Average life expectancy, that's another thing. Average life expectancy was maybe 30 or 40, 50 years. Now people are living into their 80s and 90s. I know several people in their late 80s and 90s who live very, very active lives. They're in Rotary clubs. They take in exercise every day. They're going to live for a long, long time. And that's another sign that things are better than they were in the past. Heating, for instance, when I grew up, we had one coal fire in the house. Now, it sounds like a sob story, but that was the way it was. There was a coal fire in the living room, and that was expected to heat the whole house. Well, let me tell you, it didn't heat the whole house. The rest of the house was freezing cold. We didn't have fancy duvets. I'd go to bed at night on a load of coats, army surplus coats, and I was freezing cold in the bed at night. Because the type of heating we had did not heat the whole house. Now people have central heating. It's expected that every house will have central heating. It's expected that every house now has 2-3 TVs in the house. We rented a television, and a lot of people rented it. There were lots of TV rental shops around London because people couldn't afford to buy a television. Now you might argue that yes, the price of consumer goods has come down, and that's why we can buy them now. But no way did people have more than one TV in their house. And now it's considered normal that kids have TVs in their bedrooms. Kids have lots of gadgets in them. Kids have computer games and PlayStations and that sort of thing. It's considered normal. Yeah. Now, I do realise that there are sections of society that have been left behind with this increase in wealth. There are people that have been left behind. But hopefully, we need to bring everybody up, not put the rich down for being rich. Let's try and bring everyone up to a good standard. And so that everybody can enjoy the wealth. I think there is enough wealth in the world that nobody should be starving. It's just that the distribution is perhaps not right at the moment. But I'm quite positive about the amount of wealth there is in the world. And I'm positive about, I see people starting business, say in property, for instance. I've seen people start businesses in property in the last few years, starting with nothing and building up portfolios of rent-to-rent properties, building up portfolios of their own properties that they've bought with no money down. So I'm positive about that. When I first wanted to get into property, there was no system of borrowing money to buy property. It was very expensive. The interest rates were hugely expensive. You were lucky if you could borrow money to buy a property and the rent covered the mortgage. You didn't expect to get any surplus on top. Now you can go out and you can buy properties and get a surplus immediately because interest rates are cheap. The lending is there to buy the properties. You can also get joint venture capital and joint venture partnerships to buy properties and make money from property. That there was no way of doing this in the past. I'm telling you, there was no buy-to-let mortgages. There was commercial mortgages from banks, which were very, very expensive. So, now there is a system where you can build up a portfolio of properties within a relatively short period of time. And if you don't know how to do it, then email me again. Email me at charles@charleskelly.net or on Facebook Messenger, and I'll show you how you can get into property. There are courses available run by friends of mine that you can do a free course, and it will blow your mind to see how you can get into property, because the wealth is there. You've just got to go out and get your piece of it. It's out there. And another, just to end on a funny story, did you see that piece of so-called art, which was a banana taped to a wall that sold for $90,000? Did you see that? I mean, is that true, or is that a fake story? Because then some guy come along and pulled it off the wall and ate the banana. So they just then said, well, it's not the banana, it's the concept. So they just taped it with a bit of sort of duct tape. I'm trying to find if I've got any duct tape handy, but that silver duct tape, they put it over the banana and have called it art. I think one of my listeners on one of the people, I can see you there, an artist, right? Maria Regina Coeli. I can see you there. You're an artist from the Philippines. I know you. Now, do you think that's art to tape a banana to a wall with a bit of duct tape? Do you think that's art? And how would anyone buy that for $90,000? This shows you the sort of money that's around in the world. It's incredible. It reminds me of Tracy Emin's messed up bed that she sold, or a pile of bricks from a few years ago. So don't tell me there's no money around. And if you've got a product, if you've got something that's good, there is money out there to buy it. And there's more money out there to invest in joint venture ventures. If you've got money if you've got an idea and you need the money, there is more money out there than ever before for joint venture partnerships, for angel finance. I go to angel investor meetings where there's loads of money in the room. They're just looking for good ideas. There's more money chasing ideas than there are good ideas out there. There's trillions of pounds and dollars sitting in venture capital funds waiting to be invested. There are tax incentives to invest in these funds. There are billions and trillions of amounts of money in hedge funds waiting to invest or looking for that good investment. So if you've got an idea out there, then the money is there, believe me. Don't sit there and think, I haven't got any money. There's no more money around. There's no more opportunity. There's austerity, no opportunity. There's nothing. It's not as good as it was in the 60s and 70s. The opportunities were there. There were more opportunities then. No, there are more opportunities now than there were in the past. And one of the main reasons for that is the internet has opened up things for everything. You can start a business almost immediately on the internet and start making money. So I wanted to start the week on a positive note, and let's leave it at that. And think about the ideas you can have to build your own wealth. And if you need finance, if you need money, whether it's property, Amazon, or any other business, there is a route to finance any type of business as long as the idea is sound and you've thought it through properly. So thanks for listening. This is Charles Kelly bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate, and enjoy more money. Have a great day.